I had an old farmhouse table that I just didn't really like and didn't want to sell it, so I gave it away on Instagram, and the guy that I gave it to showed up with this root, and he's like, "Hey, I want to thank you. I have this root. Do you want to do anything with it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. This thing's awesome." And it had some of the most incredible color I'd ever seen. So it sat in my shop for a couple months until I had a customer that requested a round table. And you can see it's going to take some work. That kind of wing of it already broke off, but it made it a little bit easier for the cleanup process. So pulled it out into the front of my driveway, cleaned it up the best I could, and this is how I'm going to hold it together. Just these kind of oversized splines. And the epoxy itself would be more than strong enough, but I do like having the splines for the kind of workability of it, especially when I'm going to cut this big circle like I am here. People always want to know about the prices of these tables, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable for some people. Not for me, but for some people. So I'm always happy to discuss the prices, and it has varied because this was several years ago. And when I priced my products, or at least back then, how I priced my products, it wasn't an exact formula. How I priced them, and there is no hyperbole here, this is exactly how I did it. I charged as much as I possibly could where I wouldn't be disappointed if the client said no. So I didn't want to just throw an FU price out there. Then if the client said that's too much, I'd be like, dang, I really wanted that commission. So I just charge as much as I can, where if they said no, I'd say, well, that was about as competitive as I could have been with the price. So I'm not disappointed. And I believe at the time, this one was about $3,500. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I charged this client for this one, which this table now, I would probably be in the like $10,000 to $12,000 range. So this client got a really good deal, at least comparatively. If you're wondering how I made that round epoxy form, I used a round piece of melamine for the base, and the side of it is actually a landscape edging, and that's something I came up with all on my own. Probably my biggest contribution to the woodworking community. It's like $20 at Home Depot. Make sure you get the composite stuff, the plastic stuff, because the epoxy really won't even stick to it. You can add mold release if you want, but it peels off much better than even the melamine. And I've reused this same form or this same edging on several tables. You can see just how easy it comes off. Pretty satisfying, actually. The best part about building these tables is the finishing process. The second best part about building these tables is the surfacing process, and that is what I'm doing here, running this through a big industrial planer where you can instantly see the wood grain, the orientation, and really what this table is going to look like. And now I'm cutting another circle. I know you saw me cut one originally, but I cut it slightly oversized. And all I do is cut about a ½ inch down, sometimes up to an inch or so. And then I use this flush trim bit on my router table to remove the rest of the waste. I found out the hard way that there's a reason that more people don't build tables out of big chunks of walnut roots. While they do look cool, they are very punky, and it was very, very soft and kind of almost dry rotted in areas. So I had to resaturate it with epoxy, come back, scrape it down to make sure I had a good solid working surface, because I feel like there's no point in building a beautiful table if you can't use it. And this is going to be in an entryway, and I don't want the customer to come to me in a few weeks and just say, hey, there's watermarks, there's dents, there's damage, there's scratches. I want these to be completely functional. So I build them to the best of my ability to last. And this is one of my favorite ways to make them last, is the finish process that I use. And it's continued to evolve over the years. This was fairly early on, but you can see just how pretty this wood is and just how nice that finish takes on this root with that black epoxy. This customer had a very specific table base in mind, so I had it custom made, but he also had a very specific coating for it. So I'm shipping him the legs raw because he had kind of an oil rubbed bronze that was going to be going on a alternative table base for his dining table. So this won't be the finished look, but I wanted to make sure that it was all dialed in, recessed, and all he had to do was bolt it on as soon as he had it powder coated or oil rubbed or whatever he was going to do on it. But here's how it looks in the end. One of the prettiest single pieces of wood I've ever had. I would love to get another piece like this, but they are so hard to find.